Okay. It should be. That should be that working. Is that working? Or is it just my headphones are not working properly? That's because I've muted my output somehow. There we go. Muted. Okay, so sorting. We need to order the changes by actually, how's this going to accept this? Let's figure this out. What's this going to look like? So order. Know that it is possible to sort on a field and then by another field. So what I've done is I have sort name, only sort type, And basically, hey, Phil Schnabel, how you doing? Let's see if this works. Do we have to do that first? We have to do that last. There we go. Okay. So what I've done is I've specified that this is a sortable endpoint changes. So we can tie that up and then we can sort by date added. Can I do just desk then? Yes, I can. So we had 048 on the 8th. How's your Sunday been going, Phil Schnabel? And in our store, with changes query, I changes service, fetch all, we should be able to just paste that in. Now the changes should, he says with confidence, be ordered by change Jeffrey Winkle to Helen, change Helen to Jeffrey Winkle. It's currently Jeffrey Winkle. Let's change that to Andrew. Okay. Assign user added. Got some work to do there. Those are problematic for a different reason. Okay, so that's not going to make the call. Well, I say that right this second, but I haven't actually validated that that's actually going to do anything yet. So there you go. There's the details. So the details come through. Change Jeff Ringles, Andrew. Let's validate that works now. See, it's caching it. So we need to do GraphQL. Now, ultimately, could use the fact that it's going to, I could push notifications and tell it, hey, you need to, not do that. can't remember why I do this. Customizing field behavior, refetching, queries. Let's fetch policy. I thought I set that at the fetch policy. No cache. So now we have 3 changes. Change referral equal to Andrew. Let's change this one to John. Change this one. Should remove that. That's going to be a challenging one. Assign that to John. Did that change then? That does not want to take, does it? Must supply value for form control with name assigned user. Okay. $721. That's now. There you go, $721. So it's not caching anymore. We remove that one. Doesn't like that. But it is sorting, which is good. One of these review date, yeah, the review date changed and the assigned user changed in that cache. So if the system's down, you're going to get more things happen in a single change set. So we changed the review date from August 13th, 2024 to August 14th, 2024. To change the review date of this one to the 12th. Yeah. Let's change that one to the 22nd. I'm putting off more difficult changes, by the way. That didn't work. Did it? So some of these, it's going to be the first time it's seen them as well. So that's why some of those are going to error. Make the UI look awesome. Assign to Andrew. 20th. Right. This one. So that one now got assigned to Andrew. Interesting. 22 seconds ago, 5 seconds ago, 2 minutes ago. So that one, those changes went through. We got a detail. With that one, we had a assigned user and a review date change. There you go. Change talent to Andrew. Review date from 27th of July to the 20th. Why is that going into? Oh, because I changed this to 2028. Yeah, that'd definitely be an update. definitely class as an update. Um, see what this data looks like for the removed. So that creates a problem going forward. I'm not trying to test this extensively at this point because it's going to be challenging to test it like that. There's definitely some jankiness going on here. Let's have a look. This is, yeah, see that one is bugging me. So this is, oh, that's not right. This is erroring because assigned user not set. There you are. Review date changed from 2028 to 2024 by Jeffrey. Can I filter this? I think I can. Yeah, where they added this is kind of a useless thing to do right a second. But right, sorting, filtering. Where title, so we have contains. Do we have a date filter? So the challenge there would be you'd have to get like, because I'm thinking changes should be less than the last 6 months, right? You don't want to pull all the changes ever. So, dates. Comparable filters. So date time is comparable. Date added. New date. Seed one. I'm looking for the client side. Filtering. Use filtering. They added. How did you know where? What's that? Where? Was that the question? Is that we probably want window to be in there, so we pass it in. Window, date, time. greater than window. Maybe. Window is 2024 08 11. I'm going to have to change those timestamps as well because they should be converted. They are right now problematic because they are. I need to do something different to them to make them actually readable as timestamps. We need to fix that in a minute. Change filter import. That's that. That's that. Does have an issue with that? How do you GraphQL where filter in time? Oh, oh, they all have different syntaxes. Awesome. That's just what I need. Hey, MKB, how you doing? ISO day 2020. Where title contains or John. So it looks like that's an object anyway. So the where is more expressive. Where greater than. No, that can't be right. Yeah, that's not right, is it? It's different. I've got to figure out how to read these filter things. So greater than equal to greater than where user filter import is import. Filter types. So the comparable filter defines filters for comparables like bool, byte, shop. So date time can be here. This is GraphQL. What was Mongo was like? Ignore me. I'm doing good. I just decided to kick the stream up for a couple of hours just while I'm waiting for some stuff and see if I can't get these changes on the client side figured out a little bit. So what I'm working on is displaying the changes that we've been building the last couple of streams, so you can track, the timeline of changes. I've got to go back and change I want to drop this so that the timestamps are wrong. But what I'm doing right now is I'm just want to make sure that I can filter these changes and say, oh, I only want the changes for the last 6 months. I don't need anything more recent. I can always do show more later on. So I just want to make sure that's at least in place. Even though I can't emulate it, I can yeah. String comparable. So greater than hot chocolate GraphQL where date greater than. Scales queries. Chocolate. No, helpful. Where and total amount. Yeah, so that's what I thought. A total amount less than. Okay, so that would be where date added greater than window. 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 0055 00. Let's see if that works. The specified value type of field GT. Yep, that works. So on the client side, on the server side, that is where and date added is greater than that. Order by date added. Nice. Okay. So we can specify that, which is good. So let's go over here. Oh, let's go over here. Let's do window date. Don't want to do it this way. No, I don't want to mess around with that right a second. This is really, it's nice to know I can do it with what I've got enabled, so I don't have to come mess around with that later. I can mess around with the query later. That's not going to help me move forward with other problems right this second. Okay, so we have changes. That's that one. That's this one. Change Jeffrey to Andrew. You're going to work now. Change talent to John. Change to Andrew. This one's going to fail. Okay, so this fails because the assigned user is not set. So why? Planned. An item detail. Okay, I see. Don't think that's going to work. Oh, maybe it did. So now we should be able to assign it. And then eventually we'll see that come through. So I've got to determine whether I want to do I want to push to the changes store when I make the change, or do I want to say, because one thing I would like to do there is say changes pending, right? I don't necessarily need that change. There you go. Hey, see, that's wrong. That's totally wrong. Before null, after. I know why. Okay. Let's stop. Ads are going to start in about 3 minutes, so I do apologize if you get stuck behind them. We need pipeline data to stop. So the pipeline's application right now is very naive. It's going to take the processor for the planning item. It's going to get the assigned user. It's going to use the resolver, user change resolver. If before is not JSON element, yeah, so this doesn't deal with the fact that one of them is null, which is a problem. So we don't need that. Let's take before, after there. That doesn't matter. Before user. Null. After user, equal to null. Null. They're all objects, that's fine. Fetch user information. So these are going to be objects before, object after. So before user equals before, not equal to null. Then before as JSON element. Smelly. Just trying to think about that though. It's kind of nesting behavior, but it should help with the readability a little bit. So that is going to be identifier. Yeah, you can be null still. The problem is that ultimately this should be, if I have an identifier, I expect it. So this, if this returns null, then the behavior of the application is going to change. So this code is all getting ripped out eventually. If before user, how do I write this? I'm trying to think about how I write it in a meaningful way. Because again, all this has to change because of the way that the system's going to work, which means that I'm just kind of making, I'm worrying more about the client side displaying something so that I can at least show the vision and make sure I'm testing the right things. So I'm going to go through and update the projects and update other things like that. So yeah. So if it's not null, And before is JSON element element for user. So that's gonna condense that into emergent pattern. Then fetch user for identifier before element dot GUID cancellation token. Okay, that reads a little better. Not much, but it does. We'll do the same thing. Oh, we need to await that. It's gonna get messy otherwise. Actually, probably pass that down there and repeat that. Because then what it can do is just do that, make that more readable. And then that can just be after user after. And then this can be return element is JSON element. Property. That can be property.getGUID. Reads that. Makes all that better. Again, all this changes later. Okay, so let's start that one up again now. That's a receiver, pipelines data receiver. Oh, wrong one. I need to change, I need to restart pipelines changes. That's what this is. The challenge with having so many moving parts is this gets ever harder. So, okay, so now, if I remove that again, right? So that when the green box appears, that means that it's successfully communicated with the server and sent that change. This is make more progress. So then we want to see. So changes triggered. So we got the change triggered for assign user before and null now. Now we want to see this publish. It was this, now it is this. There we go. So now when we click back on that element, removed Helen. There you go. And similarly, we should be able to say added John. No. Must supply a value for form control with name. So that breaks it. Where did that error? 105. Low detail for. Oh, did I say that's required? No. was supplier value. Let's see if that works. So we have change. There you go, John. Let's see if that goes through now. So the way the system works is if I make a bunch of changes in a short period of time, then it might land in the same change set. So I might get this scenario where a review date and assigned user changed. But if the system's running faster, then I might get these as individual changes. I'm not too worried about that right now. I don't see any problems with doing it. Later on, I can come back around and reflect. There we go. Added John. Okay, so now that's cool. Okay, so we need to make a few more changes to the data. The problem with this part is like these. Well, actually, review date doesn't matter. The occurred on can be timestamped, so let's get that working. So in the planning items, yeah, when I'm sending the data down, not a view, planning items view. Yeah, see the timestamps, they're all, it knows they're being stored as timestamps. I need to do the same thing in the view for this. Let's see if we can just change it here. What if I view as occurred on as they added. I can't change the internals of the data. The data is the data. That might just require some special finagling. So the problem with doing that is there's going to be a knock-on effect because let's stop the view. In the actual entities of view, you see the planning item has date time offsets. We now to make these date time offsets. They should function the same way. So we'll see how that goes. What I've been doing on YouTube recently, it's not been working because no one sticks around on YouTube. Okay, so let's go back here. This isn't updated because this is based upon the other user entering data and me having registered interest in certain things. There you go. Okay. There you go. What cannot be template ref? Oh, are they no longer? So what I have here is I have Right, what? Okay. There you go. So it actually did translate it to my local time, so I don't need to have the Z. The Z. Z. I don't need that there now. Right, that'll clean that up because it'll translate it to my time. These well, in this case, I don't need in the actual change display, I don't need that or that right a second. We'll worry about time component later. Interested anybody who's watching and or paying attention, how you feel about changes in that format. Is do they make sense? Are they completely useless? Is this the sort of stuff you'd want to see? My idea is what I'd do is just I'd limit it to 6 months eventually. Probably have a show more. Let's make this more complicated. Let's make this way more complicated. Okay, so we stop running that. Let's commit. Oh, God, so much to commit. This is a challenge. When I get in this sort of world, I'm scared to commit frequently because there's so many different pieces moving. I'm just worried about. Okay, that's all view stuff. Even more reason to commit frequently. Yeah, but I've got to get better at that without a doubt. I just have this experimental mindset where I'm happy to drop things or lose things. So it just puts me in that wrong place where I do need to commit more frequently. But at what point do you commit? Right? Do you commit when, because nothing was working, right? There was lots of things I was testing there. Update client app to include Windows panel by templates. And the way the client's working the second is the changes component loops through and kind of figures out the template. So I just load all the template types in there, and then right now it's hard coded for the different types of field. We'll call this, but I gotta figure out a cleaner way there. When nothing is working, I won't commit to main, but local branch, yeah, why not? Yeah, yeah. It's a practice that I just and I know I'm not alone. Yeah, so it's quicker. And I'm always branched. I always have feature branches. I don't commit to main. I always branch off. I feel like it's getting darker. Please tell me it's not going to rain. No. We're free for a couple of days. Update client to include change panel, provide templates for date and user display. So the reason I've templated these out is so that I can actually eventually do navigation off of these and also put some context through these things. I suppose once we get to bigger changes, I got to a point where pretty much every time I run tests, I debug just hard coded. It must have remembered to do a control KC. Yeah, makes sense. Date user display. Okay, pipelines allow null before after. Basically, if the pipeline, if the resolver returns null, it'll just take the default value. So you never lose a change, but you just don't get in the context you want. But all detailed changes contain changes. Allow querying changes. Allow sorting, filtering for changes. I don't worry about that. I also do squash back into main, so my commit messages are mostly just random grids. Yeah, I haven't. A lot of practices that I need to review how I feel. The whole squash thing that's come up recently in conversation. I might still feel better with explicit commit messages, but if you're doing lots of little commits, the squash makes sense, right? Because then you can just combine a bunch together, similar to what I'm trying to do here, like break it back down. Right, but so it depends on which practice you're following. If you're following the whole, commit small pieces, move forward, then that revert isn't as heavy. But if you're doing a lot of features and one piece of it is broken and you've got a squash commit, then you revert the entire thing and have to figure it all out again, right? So changes view. Yeah. I think I've not benefited from working in organizations with poor practices and being lazy and not taking the time to figure out really what I want to like. I don't know. Does it feel like it's going to rain out? Let's commit forward at that point. If it's tiny but easy to revert from main, allow prod to run fine, change on feature and remerge back into main. Fix. I have never seen a workflow like that. Every single Git workflow I've ever seen has just been, doesn't matter whether you're trying to follow Git flow or trunk, etc. I've just seen chaos and merge conflicts. To see for date stamps. Those are pending changes. Okay. So to do this properly, we need a project receiver. Also in our pipelines right this second. So the goal here will be to store users from tenant management, planning items from planning. Going to need projects from projects. Projects. Oh, projects from tenant management, actually. Yeah. So that's projects. Truncate with rights queue. Skip on empty. Skip on not empty. Sources, projects. Destination is projects. The goal of this right now is to populate MongoDB pipelines collection for projects, which will then allow me to gather the data for projects as it goes through. Tenant management owns projects right this second because it's kind of a tenant concern. So name, prefix. To be fair, I've had many discussions about this. No feature branch should be branched off the main for more than 1 to 2 days at most. If it takes longer, it needs to be broken down. Realistically, if you need to reverse something, it usually happens before it hits production, as issues are caught in staging through tests or other checks. In those cases, you can simply remove it, have the developer make the necessary changes, and reintroduce it in a few hours of the next day. Yeah. Again, I've worked in so many places that have just long running branches. I've never, like, I believe it's possible. I'm not debating that workflow is realistic. Just I've never had the fortune to work in a place that has not gone. And again, part of it is the stories, right? A lot of developers, me included, right, overestimate the amount of work involved in a story, and they live for far too long. Ultimately, I'd like to be to the point where I'm adding features at a slow pace. Right now, there's a lot of work involved in every single feature I'm doing. Hopefully, that would not be the case eventually. But I don't feel that developers are always equipped to break down the stories. What am I doing? ETL. So that's going to be name, prefix, identifier. So projects goes from projects table to projects collection in Mongo in the pipelines DB. Okay. So now we should have projects. That's our projects. That's good. And this is still one that's I'm going to defer because requirements are added and removed. I'm not sure I want to show the entire requirement. Maybe I want to say which requirements were added by title. Let's get the project's workflow in place. Technically, I don't need that right this second. So I'm going to mimic this just for right now. A lot of this stuff's going to change. Hey, Hexic, how you doing? Okay. So enhance change. Enhance your calm. We have a project already. Public object ID. ID. Good, just fighting against regex passwords and stuff right now. I'm doing good. I've been getting the changes to display. I'm just about to try and tackle the idea of assigning and unassigning projects and seeing if I can calculate those changes. Like I say, our project was associated, project was removed. Might be harder than I think. And I was reflecting on my Git workflow because MKV is kind of making me envious of better process. In the last 3 to 4 years, I don't think I've ever had a branch that lasted longer than maybe 3 working days. But then again, that's on repos that are frequently updated. A complete rewrite of an entire domain might take longer. I won't do that on a domain where multiple developers are regularly working on it. Instead, I'd approach it by service, project, feature, or workflow. Yeah. Well, it's what I want to, it's what I hope to be able to. Okay. I believe it's possible in this application to break down stories. The problem is that if you right, to get a change, right, if I want to say when I change this associated project, I want to see in the changes the associated project, right? If you take that as one story, well, the changes streams the fact that a project was added or removed, so it's going to stream the before and after, right? So here's the projects that were associated, here's the projects that are now associated. That's great. So that produces a stream of GUIDs or a list of GUIDs. I then need to go and change the enhance part in the pipeline right this second to say, okay, well, I have these projects. Let's get their names. I produce that stream of changes. I now have to consume that in this service to, I mean, it's going to come as part of the changes of this planning item in this case, but which is okay. But then I have to create on the UI, I have to create the element to show the projects. Now, maybe that's a first time thing. Maybe that's just a pattern thing. But again, how would I break that story up? Well, you could break up the UI component because you can test the UI component independently if you can mock the data. Well, but when you're talking about tasking, right, would you have branches for the tasks or would you have branches for the story? So essentially creating multiple stories. Because every time I've seen tasks used, they are like, do this, do this, do this, do this, but the story has the branch. So the branch is long running, the branch is lots of work. So how do you break it down? Hello guys. What are we doing? Hello. Just got 2 waggy tails in here. Oh, ad break, sorry. Ah, you've got turbo, you don't. Doesn't bother you. Big task you can implement part of the feature behind the feature flags. That's probably something I need to look at doing, but it's like, but you get into the discussion with certain people about stories having value. So can you class it as having value if you've switched off most of the behavior? Right? If no one can test it because it can't be enabled unless all the features are available, does a story have value? Evening Rambling Geek, how are you doing? So again, conflicting approaches here to I'm not saying from you guys, I'm saying just in general that people get stuck on. And maybe I've just been misfortunate enough to get stuck on the wrong things. I believe terminology can sometimes hinder progress. You can branch per unit up a story if you want, but hear me out. You can make changes in the mainstream, release them to production, and have them live for 2 days without affecting anyone. Why put everything in one branch when you can break it down? Well, nothing lasts more than a few days. Right. So if I did it that way, then I create a branch for, again, I'm a solo dev. In this case, I'm going to end up, you know, single tracked, but I could create a branch for doing the client changes. I could create a branch for doing the server changes. And they could be short lived because they could be done within a day. I mean, I'm doing these within a day because I'm really familiar with what I'm doing. And there's a bit of hackery going on. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is that we try and align every workflow we have to a story or to. I mean, I don't use tasks in Jira, mainly because I don't like what they do to the board. But yeah, okay. So this is going to be project info. So project info. Don't need a prefix there. That's completely useless. Project info. This is not. No, this is not an enhanced change. Will that work? It might do. Let's all look. Okay, so let's. So the difference in this is going to be an array of GUIDs, right? So before projects, after projects. So that's going to be, the PM might be frustrated asking, where's this stored? But ultimately, most features don't deliver real value until nearly everything is complete. For example, as a customer, I want to add to items to a basket, but until the checkout process is implemented, having a basket alone doesn't provide any real value. Do you really want to create the entire e-commerce store as one store so it has value? And that's my challenge is those are the sorts of people I've come up against as teammates as well as developers that have pushed back on, well, it has to have value. Well, hold on, everything has value if we look at it, right? And that's kind of why I'm doing this, is because I think that if their vision can be described properly, building the stories out might be simpler. More questions can be asked before you actually create stories, and more relevant stories can be broken out. I still think that the stories should be representing independent work. Yeah, I think everything's valuable to the system if it moves it forward. So I think I'm on the same track as you. I just think I haven't achieved doing that in organizations yet. In that I would break down stories as or tasks again if you do it that way. It doesn't matter what organizational unit you put it under, as long as you're delivering quickly. So I would break down, doing that UI piece could be mocked. That has value because it's now ready. You just have to agree upon the interfaces. Calculating the changes, adding that value is there. So I will keep putting that to the test. Also, it can be tested. You can test the stream has them in GUIDs instead. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, they need to be commented out. So what I'm looking to do here is project information. I'm not worrying too much about the design of these pieces, primarily because I have to pull all this apart. Does not mean you can't rely, but yeah, I agree. I do agree. Project info array. nullable. For after, what's that? Fetch project information object for object after. Okay, so actually almost follows the exact same pattern, essentially. If anyone's new to the stream, if you are wondering what the heck I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask. I'm happy to show. I'm just for projects equals awaits fetch projects. Or let's just do fetch projects. Again, let's not overthink it. Before cancellation token, private async task, project info array. Actually, those are projects. Those are projects. We currently have a story where I updated the message bus, and the acceptance criteria is literally after the event is published, the extra fields must be populated correctly. In the Azure Message Bus Explorer for QA to verify, and there is a couple of unit and integration tests. Yeah, I think sometimes making sure the I don't think it's unreasonable to have QA have visibility into something. I'm not totally against having tools or views that present information that they might need to see. Elements. Cancellation token. So this is really return. So this needs an iRepository of project, right? That will sort that out. And this is going to return element is JSON array. Collection. Collection. And then we do it's fine. And then we do after projects. That's after. Then return. So, at my workplace, QA pay grades are roughly on par with software developers, ranging from junior to senior levels, including team leads. If their job were limited to just checking the front end while treating the back end as black box, could probably save a lot of money. However, we'd miss out on catching 9% of the issues we currently identify. To be honest, they're usually the only people that really know what's going on. And I think that's right. I mean, QA are, I do believe in integrated teams. I have worked in an environment where everyone working together was dealing with deployment. They were talking about deployment, even if they weren't doing it. QA was sat there watching what was happening in development, being an active part of the discussion, like an open office with PM, QA, DevOps, developers, all there, being able to ask questions, listening on conversations. that is the most productive I've ever been. Still got stuck on a lot of those things, but being able to be agile, I think, is definitely a difficult process, especially in a remote world. As much as I love working from home, if I could work with an energetic team that work like that, then I probably would be a little bit more productive in some respects. But I think, yeah. What would you consider too many regex steps for a password security check? Because I've got it at like 100 steps and I can't tell if that's too much. What the heck? 100 steps? What does that regex look like? My workplace, each team, I haven't worked in with dedicated QA in years. My workplace, each development team has its own dedicated QAs who are fully integrated to the team. 2 to 3 QAs who work exclusively with us sitting with us, joining our refinements and retrospectives and being active part of yeah, okay. Characters A to Z. So between 8 and 32 characters. You're excluding. I can't tell what you're excluding there. Hey Ryan, how's it going? My goodness. Hexic. That is crazy. Nothing's excluded. Okay, so interesting. Well, you're explicitly including a lowercase and uppercase, a number and a symbol. Yeah, a lot of rules I've seen recently kind of limit the symbols you can use. Okay. I want to limit symbols because that's mean. I don't know if that breaks anything. Okay, so I wonder if I can write a specification here. Um, entities with identifiers spec specification t entity. No, I intend to return an array. So public. I might just allow normal symbols that you'd use, like, yeah, I mean, I have a few passwords on large systems that don't require, all they require is just an, they actually are sentence based. So they don't even have any symbols in them at all. And they deem them as, I mean, it's like 4 different random words, but it reads like a sentence. Public entities, identifiers, spec, enumerable, period, identifiers. Let's see if I can get this to work. Query dot where q identifiers dot contains. So that is iDocument. That's why. contains q dot identifier. So that would mean, yeah, that's why. So project has to be iDocument. It's fine. And then this makes this simpler because now I can just do await repository dot to repository dot. It says list async. That's what I want. New entities with identifier spec, and this can be collection as, yeah, probably need to do private IEnumerable period. Yeah, I mean, the whole project management pipeline, the whole planning and prep and stories and stuff. There's just so many different ways of doing it, and we get stuck on how to do it right so often that we why is that not liking that? Yeah, get stuck in it so often that we never get anything done. I do believe in an embedded team, though. I do think that is a perfect way to go. Not wanting my current employer to, like, okay, well, you're gonna move states then. Entries dot select s goes to s dot get period. No. S dot get value period. I know what I want to do, but we'll figure that out afterwards. Hello again, Rambling Geek. I said hello the first time. I said evening before. What does it mean, rude? Cannot convert expression type to because I could do do I care? IEnumerable project. That's that. So fetch projects can be enumerable. That can be doesn't matter whether they're array or enumerable. Oh, on mobile, I didn't think of it. I didn't think it said. Oh, good. That's enumerable. I'm just not fighting the I'm not trying to convert. I don't need to jump through any hoops. I'm just not fighting it going up the line. I just care about getting the actual. I want to see if I can get the data to come through. Okay, so with that done, this is an array. So this becomes before equals before projects dot select. Now these are projects. P goes to new project info. And this takes an identifier, which is p.identifier, p.name. I don't need the prefix, however you want to say it, to array. After equals after projects. Dot select. P goes to new. P.identifier, p.name. That's project info, not project. I will be right back. Okay. I'm back. I need to get this room emptied, get the carpet pulled up, get laminate down, and then put one big rubber mat for my chair. Because the mat moves forward on the top of rug. It's a thick mat with big deep spikes, but it still moves on top of the carpet. And then what happens is after a time, the mat moves forward, and then I get caught, so I can't move myself forward when I sit down. So maybe after dinner I'll empty the desk and try and organize things differently. It is. Well, like if you see me kind of fidgeting about on the stream normally, it's because the chair's stuck. And earlier on, or just before, not even earlier on, I was so far away I was reaching out, so I kind of sat forward. Okay, so blame the chair. Absolutely. So the planning item processor, we can now register. So the planning item itself has not our planning item. The planning item changes if we look at that. So if we change the project, which can't do right a second, but a project change will yield that. Actually, let's go. I keep wanting to do Control P. That's Visual Studio Code. So if we look at a planning item integration event, the associated projects. So if this changes, it's going to be a list of GUIDs, right? That's what I'm planning on. So what I'm going to do here is name of. Oh, I've already got it. So if it finds associated projects have changed, and again, it's good. It's going to use the key. Then it will resolve that. Otherwise, it'll just dump it straight in here. So at the very worst, it will dump it in here. If this comes back bad, it will dump it into like default and just give me a bunch of GUIDs to work with. The reason I'm not making this happen on the clients, on the changes on the client side, on the client side or the view aspect of the system, the GraphQL API, which I'd be interested to know, has anyone got any better names? I don't like silly names on projects. I don't agree with putting quirky names on, but the view really is the database, it's the storage. It consolidates the things from all over the system, and then it has a GraphQL API aspect. So the GraphQL, the view, is this. The client is what I refer to as the client, not the view. But there's nothing to do with the actual screen here. So I think I'm missing a term somewhere. So if you have any ideas, I'd be interested in knowing. Okay. Yeah, what's the worst that happens? Let's start it up and try. Well, let's start up. If you are new to the stream, if you've not been in here before, you have any questions, please let me know. Happy to talk about this, happy to chat. Oh no, I didn't click it. I clicked away from here too soon. Okay. So what I want to do by the end of the stream is I want to kind of get the projects showing. If the projects are showing, then this is essentially working. There's just one more piece there in terms of the requirements, right? That's going to be a little harder, but requirements should do that. So I get those pieces working, then this branch can be merged essentially. And then I can focus on the bigger part, which is actually reworking all these pieces. Now I know the working and the UI set up for them. I just need to change this piece and handle the fact that it might not have all the data it needs. Right now I've populated it using the ETL tool, so it's got all the projects and stuff. But in the future, that project might have been added, but and then been assigned because the view had it, but the this piece might not have received that project yet. So I can't guarantee the ordering of things, which makes it harder. Okay, so we should be able to go in here and say notifications and changes, right? That results in a change. There we go. Now, this is going to break. Let's see how far it breaks. Right? So 8 seconds ago, we published a planning item. So it already went through planning items. We've got that. We see the associated projects look like this. So we should see there was one before, so 08 probably. Now we should see a change published, right? So we've got a liquid sky change there. And that is showing that before it was 08 and now after it's these three. So now we want one of these to appear. At the very least, the change should appear in here. Oh. Wah, 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 wah. Services, pipeline changes. It did. It didn't error, but it didn't pick it up. What? There's no lag. Oh, pipelines integrations has a lag. Ring. So that should be this piece. That shouldn't have a lag. Okay, so that published 2 minutes ago. In terms of consumer groups, does that lag? No authorizers. Don't you dare. It says it got it. Let's change something else. Let's change that and say that as story. So tenant management and story. Let's see what happens. So that one published. We have associated projects. There's our change. So we publish the fact that before we had this associated projects and now this. Oh, hold on. I bet it's erroring out. Hold on. Receivers, pipeline changes. Let's stop that one. I bet I know why. Dependency injection. Because it's all running on threads, that receiver is just going to go and fail out. So it's just going to silently fail because it's all async stuff. I don't think that's going to work. No, it's birth. The good news is the Kafka should recover this, so we should be okay. But the that's running in a background process, and it probably got swallowed. This is where things like telemetry are going to help later on. Would be interested to know, what path would you take with this project in terms of your approach to, would you get stuck on kind of refining each piece as you go down to the nth degree, or would you focus on what I'm doing and pushing out, or would you take a totally different tack, right? If you're building something of this scale, do you how would you approach it? I'm not saying, hey, criticize me for being, you know, terrible, but oh, full stack. I'd just be interested to know if other people would take, what path they would take down this on this journey. Although I doubt many people are crazy enough to build something like this on their own. Okay, so that calculated 4 minutes ago. All the integrations have come out. Consumer groups 22 and 1. Still shouldn't be 1. Let's do one more. Sorry, that was a weird sneeze. So it changes. That went through. Bless you. Thank you very much. One second ago. So we got our change. Second ago. So we push the change. So this consumer, the consumer here for the view. I want to see a detail change. Yeah. So pipelines. Am I not running that one? Yeah, pipelines changes. That's what that should be. Pipelines changes. Let's change receivers. All 5 are started. Why is there lag? So it received it. It knows it's there. I'm missing something. Somewhere in the process here, I'm going to have to figure out how to store this data. Like I'm going to have to store this data out. Maybe there's a separate data store or whatever that I consume all this to, so that I have a source of truth for. Although the fact that I'm going to combine all the information here probably means this is the source of truth for enriching the data. Lag 2, lag 23. Why do you have a 23 message lag? So the planning item receiver is going to call update planning item. It's basically, if it has changed, it's going to save it back, right? So it's going to update that planning item's core data. Again, this data here is just core data that this system needs to enrich data. So it doesn't need to contain every single field. It's not doing the diff against these objects. Otherwise, that would be the changes system. It's storing, and it's when it talks about planning item, this is the item created off the integration event, not the actual planning item, but they're representations of the planning item, representations of the user, eventually representations of the project. I'm just going to put that piece in, but realize there was no point in doing the consumer for the planning item, the project, sorry. Okay, so we're going to stop that. Let's start this change receiver up and then process update, planning item processor. We've got for users and projects. Let's start up pipeline changes. if it's erroring, that would be why it's not consuming and it's got a lag still. Okay, so we have a resolver for associated projects. There we go. Unable to cast type project change resolver. Oh, I'm a hold on. Oh, because I cast it there. And this isn't a generic collection. So that's why that's failing. Might as well just run it again. So Kafka won't commit to say it's received the message until it successfully consumes the message and doesn't error. So what's happening there is it errors, which means the lag is just going to grow. And this is why you might end up with a situation where part of your system doesn't have chunks of data. So you've got to build to allow for that. So if let's say this, we saw before the lag on the other component was 23 items. So what happens if there we go. There we go. Let's go in there now. Did that work? No. No, it didn't work. Skip to here. Okay, so element is an array. Let's see. Ah. If element is JSON array collection. I don't think that worked quite the way I wanted it to. Pipeline changes. So the problem there is we need to reset that a little bit. Update offsets 23. Come on, stop running. Gonna wait for Kafka to kind of release the connection to the broker before it'll let me before to the consumer rather before it'll actually let me. There you go. So now there'll be a lag of 2. So we can test that message again. Okay, so we have associated projects. We get into before projects. We get into here. So we have an element, which is actually a value kind of array. So let's go to the immediate window and do element is JSON array. Element is JSON value. Element is JSON object. JSON element. Element is JSON element. If element as JSON element dot so hold on. So hey, Xcoding, how you doing? So it's not a JSON array, it's a JSON element. So do object is that's element. If element dot array. Installing Windows in a VM, how are you? Oh, it's on Linux in a VM. I say Windows in a VM. Ooh. I'm doing good. Doing good. So that's a JSON element. And then dot enumerate array dot select s dot get period. How's that look? Element. Okay. That doesn't read too bad. Let's get there. Let's make sure we still have a lag. No lag there. We need to update offsets. 23. Now let's run that again. So the concept of this all will remain. The only challenge is I'm going to have to say, okay, do I actually have these things yet? And if I don't have them, then I need to wait until I've got everything. And that's going to be the challenge because it's going to be messy. Okay, there we go. So we have element. Oh no. No. Sunday fun day. Hey Apex, how you doing? I need to I don't think streaks are active on my stream, right? I think they're not active. 7 months. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very much appreciate that. Very much appreciate. There you go. Okay. So this isn't right. JSON element like kind array print. Thank you, Apex. I don't think enumerate gets enumerated to enumerate the values in the JSON array. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. Enumerate array. I think we have to have a breakpoint there. Breakpoint there. We're going to figure this out. Yeah, I don't know if Twitch tells you when you have view streaks available, but one of the things I was thinking about the other day is if they enable that and people care about it, which some people seem to do. If I do that, then I do these weekend streams randomly. That messes with people's stream streaks. Okay. So we have an element. It is a value kind of array. Let's do step in. Okay, so let's do entries dot enumerate array. Oh. That ain't good. Entries dot enumerate object. That works. Oh, tell me I've got to do something janky there. So why does enumerate array result in that? What's interesting there is even if I stop running there, it does still do that. So let's go and change that code. For each var period in, no, for int idx equals 0, idx is less than entries dot get array length, entries plus plus, oh no, idx plus plus, yield return, entries idx get period. That is horrendous. To period collection. That is utterly horrendous. Update. There you go. Okay, let's run. We hit that one. We hit that one. We hit that one. Oh. Cannot create a DB set for project because this type is not included. Not lookup. Oh yeah. Public DB set. Projects, set or project. Hello, little buddy. My phone crashed. So the context needs to have it. The repository can talk about it because it's an object, but then it has to bind to here. There's no hard link between the DB context and the repository. That's why that's failing there. So when it did this, it was like, no, I have no idea what project is. Okay, so we have that. We have that. I'm just going to put it there. So the only time it doesn't is if this can't cast. So let's go back here once more. Update that to 23. Run this. Okay. There we go. So before projects, after projects, complete failure. Why? Skip to here. So before is an array, after is an array. I have projects. So hold on. After projects. So after 72956 and 5B3. Is this a no, because it works for users. 72956 and 5B3. So let's stop that running again. Let's get rid results equals new list. Is this an enumeration problem? Let's see. Update, 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 update. These all stay open, by the way. So it looks like the red one replaces the green one. It's the same problem I have with my thing. Okay. We have a GUID 7295. So let's go to the specification. Entities with identifier spec. That's our identifier. Zero. I don't want to do individual queries. So the project, the user has a similar pattern. Well, not quite this pattern, but it does use a spec. Bar identifiers equals this. I mean, I just validated that works, right? There's no benefit in creating an extra variable. We just step through it. I'm happy that it's working. On that topic, I'm putting this back to yield return because I don't think that had any bearing either. So this any. So is it a link translation problem then? Is the next question. Is it a link problem? There you go, that works. Okay. Nope. Okay. So we have to flip it. Let's do this. So what we do is we say return dot select identifier goes to await repository dot goes to default async new entity by identifier cancellation token can't do async like that. No, I can't do async. What do I want to do there then? I want to do that's not what I want to do there. I don't think that works the way I want it to, because then I'm going to make an async and a waitable collection. That gets me in a whole lot. Async enablable project. That gets me in a whole lot more challenging waters. I don't like messing around with async enumerables. Yeah, I can't do that. I haven't played around with those enough to really be comfortable with it. But I prove it wrong. I'm not trying to fix I'm trying to prove that it will gather the data. Project, still async enumerable. It's not a way around. Basic transformers, the state machine. Yeah, I'm not in a place where I'm messing around with that right this second. This is janky. I need to prove it out. I don't need to spend the entire time trying to convert the async. I need to prove that it's going to, if I do it one at a time, is it going to query it? And therefore, it's a translation of, because underneath that's Mongo, that's not SQL, right? So, yeah. No, come on. Oh, come on. Skip to here. Why is it null? Okay. I think I translated identifier. The challenge is in the actual MongoDB. How can I get that back out as a... drop that collection back to ETL. No, I definitely did identifier. Yeah, no, man. So the good news is it likely isn't failing on the group collection. The bad news is it's not able to look it up. But it works for user. So this is the same spec the user's using, right? So this by identifier is working fine. So why is this not working? It's definitely returning GUIDs. First, the default async repository. That would be why. Project type configuration. Entity type configuration. It's probably trying to, because it's all dynamic in the NoSQL database. My bet, let's see if I'm right, is that it's trying to get project with a capital P doesn't exist. It's returning null rather than failing. Builder.to collection projects. So let's not mess around. Let's put this back to how it was. See, I got in here. Have a GUID. Before projects is 1. We have a project. Yay. We got there. It didn't crash. Did we have a change? Topics. Oh, 2 seconds ago. There you go. There we go. So that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that the planning and stories changes. So before and after. There we go. Thank goodness. Now, that will get consumed by default into the other pieces. Interesting. Because changes is just one stream. There's not, I actually, originally I was going to break out changes per entity, which gives you obviously context and what you're dealing with, but then it makes handling changes much harder because then the entire stream of changes from the system is, you need to combine it at some point or whatever. It's more nightmarish. I'd rather have it combined and split it out than I would the reverse. So now on here, we have another. No, it's a project change. It's good. It's all good. Let's create a new. Yeah, it's me being in the prototyping mode. That's kind of, I'm like figuring out things as I go. That's causing me to do way too much. 10 KB's point display. That's a bit redundant. We're going to get that changed afterwards. Display. Selection change. I'm still kind of figuring out what these really are, but extends, change component base, implement that. I really don't think I need to do that anymore either. Because ultimately that's going to be return this dot content dot element dot. Because the change component base has content, which is the template ref. Because the idea is that every template contains a template with these parameters. I'm still trying to work out. So there's a title. Right? Because everything displays title and then the things that it needs to deal with. So this one, this is going to be model. So this is going to be export interface named detail name string identifier string. I'm not aliasing, I'm messing around that because I'm not using GraphQL for this, so I don't have the ability to alias it. And then this is a export interface named collection. Change set extends. So in here, we're going to say set name collection. So the benefit, what you get there is now that in here, I can say that before and after. are so I can do set dot before, he says with confidence as he completely mistypes that, for dot name. Yeah. 85 before. Shinbel, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. There's the chat again. So this might be the first time I actually need to combine elements. Set up for this is going to take elements is a, so the named collection change set is a name detail. That's a name detail array. And then we're going to do, how do you do it? Elements dot join. Oh yeah. Elements dot map. E goes to, there you go. Why don't you like that? Oh, name. The internal objects. So this should have actually consumed it by now. If we go to the SQL server, go to the view, the DBO here. There you go, associated projects. So the parent object is always capitalized. I need to go back over that. But what I'm looking at here is I have two collections. Come on, stop it. And these have identifier and name. These are lowercase internally, right? So before identifier, tenant management, after it's an array, identifier, name, tenant management, identifier, name, story, right? And here we have those others. So that's what I'm looping through. If you're new to the stream, if you are wondering what I'm doing, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I am doing, please feel free. You're more than welcome to ask. This project is quite a large project, so it's a little hard to just divert and describe. But I'm happy to take people through if they would like. After div combine elements set dot after. Hey Anwin, how's it going? Then in here, I'm good. I'm good. App display collection change. These are all standalone components. Making good progress? Well, we're about to find out. Hopefully so. This is repetitive. I gotta figure out this part. Collection change component. So this would be case associated projects. So that associated projects piece comes from in here. The name here is what the field was that changed, right? So this is going to be an array of things. And then for each one of these, it's going to determine, the idea is here that it's going to determine which component it's going to use to show that that specific component, right? That specific piece. So this loops through the change set details. So it'll loop through everything in here, right? And it will like last updated and associated projects, and it will display, it will call the right template for that field. So if we go in here now and click on this one, no, which one did I change? Do we crash? Oh, tracking. No, I'm not tracking anything. Jeffrey Winkle. There you go. Associated projects. Before planning story, after planning story changes. There you go. That's probably not the most readable, but it does tell you the story, right? So 526. Yep, I changed that. Yep. Associated projects, tenant management story. Yes. So we can go here, new widgets. Here's a test. Changes and planning. Okay, give that a minute. I'm going to change this one to be Jeffrey. And you're going to do that. And you're going to be assigned to John. To change. And you want to get planning. I'm deliberately trying to test the frequency which I'm updating, like to see what happens. Okay, so that one changed to Jeffrey Winkle at 536. That's right. That one's empty. Oh, there we go. Change the title. Change the title. It knows that it changed the title. It just doesn't know how it changed the title. Let's have a look. Before applying events, after applying events. Okay, so it does know it changed it. Huh? Oh, because I published that information. That makes sense. So the default component, default change. Shows the title. And it should just be from set that before to set that after. There you go. From applying events in Kafka to applying events in Kafka number 2, and associated projects changed in the same change set from notifications to planning notifications. That's a good one. There you go. Associated projects before and after it was empty. Now it's changes in notifications. 537. Nice. Did I change anything else? So because the changes have to be calculated, right? The changes have to have data attached to them. There's no point me trying to assemble them on the client side. They're made to do this. So now if we change this to assign to Andrew, and we change the review date to 08/25, right? Now those two changes could get picked up independently and processed independently, but they might, because of the way the system runs, they might get bundled in the same group of changes. It doesn't matter either way. It's just when it applies that change set, right? Anyone remember which one I actually clicked on there? Ads are going to start shortly, in 3 minutes, and yeah. Oh, we changed it. We changed the date as well, didn't we? August 20th. I moved it. That's why I can't find it again. So this one, review date from 27th, July 27th, 2028 to July 20th, 2028. Did I change it from? No, it's not that one, is it? Change John to Andrew. Yeah, there we go. 539. So I'm interested to know if anyone has an eye for design, etc. How do you feel about the changes showing as this, as a timeline of like, this is converting, by the way, to local time. These are always as they were set. Is that readable? Because that's kind of my vision on the changes. And I might expand this because the inbox here would also publish things. Why is that not loading that change? I think we've got a rogue query there. Yeah. Where? Why did you error? My feeling there is I've created a change that's broken. Assigned user identifier. I'm not sure. Things are going so well. This refires. It's like the signal store takes over. See that runs. Ah, attachments component. Let's do that. Source. Angular view. Um, introduce display collection change component. TypeScript should drive me nuts. You got a generic with 3 parts. We'll only have to fill out 2 because you have a default type. Combine bodies in. Well, I won't say good day then, Mr. Anhorn. I'll say hello. Still quick on the generator. Nice. I've got a feeling I've got to do some review of Angular because I'm getting lots of stuff like this. Um, attachments. I bet there's no track attachment ID. So how are you whining at me? The provided tracking expression results in duplicate keys for a given collection. Adjust the tracking expression such that it uniquely identifies all the items in the collection. I have a query problem. It's good before I started programming. Get projects, get planning item by ID. Ooh, that is a lot of space. Come on, come on. Entity identifier, planning item. So we need requirements. Let's remove new document. Test planning item. Delete. Duplicate. Oh, okay. It duplicates to that. Okay. Save as test. I'm going to play with making a media server. You sorry, I'm just they are duplicated. That would be a problem. But that's a query problem. You are kind of Plex, are you burning DVDs up there? Sorry, the question I was going to ask. Are you query? So that is a problem with the join on. So query planning item by ID, planning item, enumerable attachments, associated attachment. That's got a rogue query. I'm not sure. We do have a lot of DVDs, so it might be good to get copies so we can easily search them. I've contemplated. I've actually gone through the effort of trying to rip several DVDs to a Plex server before. Just it's a significant time sink. So this is why that's causing a problem. Why are you failing? Let's have a look. So associated projects, associated attachments for you. Yeah, that has a jar. That's a problem, isn't it? Join associated on planning items. No. Hold on. That seems wrong. I probably want from attachments. Join associate attachments. AA on AA dot attachment ID equals A dot ID join planning items P on AA dot planning item ID equals P dot D equals that. Does it really just modify the view for distinct? Is that what I want to do? Probably. The generator just need to figure out how to handle default generation TypeScript and think I'm done, which I might just force the generator is used. Hey Tooks, how's it going? I am doing okay today. See if that works. There we go, that was healthier. That's what I get for not thoroughly testing that component. Today we have been getting, there we go, changes. There's our change. There's our attachment. So the system, if the system processes multiple changes at once, it does look like it's not, it doesn't look like it's losing things, which is what my primary concern would be, right? It is catching up. Change Jeffrey. So let's go in and change notification story. Let's change that to John. Let's change that to the 19th. All right. Let's see what that looks like. I finally took a decision. I may go in Spring Boot, Angular. I think it's great for both making side apps and job opportunities. Nice. Nice. So as you are learning, I would highly recommend figuring out a project that is engaging, that you have some passion for, not just trying to follow projects that are for the sake of projects. Okay. There you go. Review date change from August 18th to 19th. The assigned user changed from Andrew to John, and the associated projects were empty and now says story notifications. This is working as intended. So those three changes all fired off as single actions to the server. Each one, because the green box flickered every time, that sent off as individual actions. So if I actually look at the changes, though, we go here. We'll have published the item 3 times in the space of a second, right? So this shows the review date of the 19th. Associated projects was where are you? Review date of the 19th. Review date of the 19th. Review date of the 19th. Did it manage to catch them all? It did. They all happened. They all hit the server, and it did fire off 3 integration events because it recognized the 3 actual requests, but they all came out with the same data. So if anything, I'd probably want to debounce this and say, hold on, this is the same object change. Let's not publish it 3 times, because then it came around and the details published. Now there's only one detail published because it actually calculated, because the changes identified that all the review date, the associated projects changed, all, and the assigned user changed all in one go. But the good news is it did line up. That's cool. Really happy with that. Now I've got to rip it all apart. So if you've not seen this project before, this is the project map. This is the planning aspect of the application I'm building, right? This is what I'm focused on. And the reason I need these changes to be so granular, the reason I'm wanting to see these coming out with the right information, right, is because I do want to um uh, let me just test story. Give that a second. Blah 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 blah. And change that to Jeffrey. Blah 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 blah. And change that to the 15th. Right. So I do need the granularity of the changes. It's like a task following web app, kind of. So the idea here is product teams when they're building work for developers to do using Jira, you often end up with a bunch of stories created. Then the developers review the stories, and the stories can either sit there, or they can, they stagnate, or they get lost in the backlog because people are, priorities change, etc. So what this tool is a planning tool that will say, okay, well, the product management team will sit down, they'll go through, they'll define the requirements of the story as they see it. They'll define what what they'd expect to happen. The developers will review this with them, and from here, ultimately, you'll be able to create actual stories for developers to work upon. So, kind of a task following app. This review date here is completely mandatory, right? You cannot avoid the review date. And the idea being that the review date will be able to tell people, oh, by the way, you've not touched this in a while, so you need to, your review date's expired. So when you come in the screen, you see past due, current, which is the next 7 days, including today, and upcoming next week and beyond. The goal is that you should be kind of reviewing these, and ideally you only have upcoming, right? Because, everything's in the future. Well, right now there's no status of there's no chatbots for this, because ultimately what this is going to do is this is going to create actual work items, and their status of complete will basically mean this is done. So this doesn't have this doesn't have the ability to say, yeah, this is finished. It will be able to be marked as, not used or invalid. But the reason I'm focused on the changes here so much is because I want to. There you go. See, it changed them in 3 separate changes there, because the system, but it did track them all and in the right order. So it added it changed these around. So I dropped off story and added changes in notifications. It tracked that John became Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is the one that did it. And then the review date changed. Nice. So I'm kind of testing that those events happen properly. But the idea what I want to be able to do is for any user in the system say, okay, this story, I care if this assigned user changes to be me, and I want to be notified, or I want to track all changes to planning items where they're set for the notification system, right? So I want to be told about them. And that's kind of meant for this screen, right? Well, this is basically, if I go in here as a different user, let's start a new, log in as a different user. Did you think of account logging for the devs and maybe the manager too? Account logging in what respect? So if we log in as, I think Andrew is active. Well, it's kind of what I'm building upon. So there's a few things I'm building here, which is the primary function is I want to be able to allow teams to track their work, right? I want to be able to say, this is what we've got to do. This is the actual work we've got to do. Now let's go and create the stories for developers to work off of. Because oftentimes what happens is in Jira, if you're using tools like Jira, the work and the planning are intertwined. I want the planning to happen and then generate the stories so the stories can be more specific to the task. So one of these could generate two stories, right? Like this could generate two stories because one of them could go to the UI team and one of them could go to the changes team or something like that, right? So, and we're going to try and basically what I'm working towards right now is dog fooding this, so that I need to be able to. That's interesting. That it keeps giving me a default change. Oh no, it's broken. That's why. Something went wrong with the template refs. But the idea being that in here, if I go and change, actually, let me make sure I'm subscribed to one. So adding a dialog for adding requirements. Dialog, adding requirements. This is being changed to tell me that requirements dialog required. And we'll do that on the 8th. We'll assign that to Jeffrey. There we go. Okay, so let's see if that works. On this side, that hasn't changed because I don't have live update, right? But ultimately, that would publish and say, oh, by the way, this entity changed. You want to update the UI. What should happen is when I go in here eventually, there you go. So 3 changes happened, or 4 changes happened against that entity. Dialog for adding requirements was updated by Andrew. So this now isn't the same thing. So there we go. So if we go into this one now, Andrew updated the title, updated the description, and updated the assigned user. That's exactly what I did. That's cool. So at the very least, what's going to happen is it's going to try and display the from and the to. So I just need to highlight them differently. Hold on. Thank you very much. Now, in reality, this is going to have we're going to have to figure out limits on this, because if I change that the way I should be doing it, which would be kind of a massive amount of text, then that's sort of more UI work, but the logic is here. That's what I'm focused on. I don't care about, I care about the UI as much as the idea and demonstrating it. I don't care about the UI because this is all something I want to build out and then get a UI UX person in. Because in reality, it matters more that I can do all the things, not what it all looks like. It can all be laid out differently. It could be styled differently, colored differently, etc. Yeah, but I'm not going to get bogged down in that sort of stuff, because if I start going down that path of trying to figure out why that's not all the way down, I'm going to be miserable. It's going to upset me because I'm not going to want to do it. Yeah. Initiatives are going to be, so planning items. I probably should plan. That probably one of the first things we plan once we get the actual dog feeding of this in, is planning items should become part. A planning item should be able to be assigned to an initiative, and an initiative should be able to show planning item statistics. Because ultimately, what's going to happen is that this screen is going to be for project management. They don't need to see they don't actually need to see the Kanban board, because they can see the status of any planning item and the stories attached to it. And that's the direction I'm heading in. So an initiative is many of these, and each one of these can have many stories created for it, and those stories will update the status when they change in here. So this will track all that information. What is breaking that? I don't know which one I've clicked on to cause the problem. That's the issue I'm having right this second. I'm gonna subscribe to a few of these for Andrew over here. So okay, so Andrew's now subscribed to a several. That really broke. There are signals in place, yeah. I wouldn't consider myself an expert at Angular. This is more a means to an end. Okay, so let's see if I click on this one. It works. Well, this is Angular 18. So, okay. However, that being said, I'm really pleased overall with the progress the last couple of days. I think this is this is what I pictured, which is which is really good. I've got a bug to work out somewhere. That's going to now that's stuck. I believe that's going to error. No, it's not going to error. Something breaks. It's working. I don't know why it fails before, but anyway. It's enough to demonstrate the concept. It's enough to show people as they see the product what I'm aiming for, which is, again, I'm trying to show that it has the ability to reflect all the changes to all the fields. The reason being that when I can prove that it can actually identify all changes to all fields, then what I can do is say, okay, well, that's what you can subscribe to. Oh, I care about the assigned user changing. I care about the assigned user being changed to this person. All those things that I can actually now look for and build out a more rigid and flexible notification system. But what I'll probably do is get this part working enough over the next couple of days, and then when that's running, switch my focus to deployment for a little while and get a Kubernetes cluster deployed with these services and start to test it and use it as the actual app to plan off of. That's kind of where I'm thinking I want to go right this second. Because if I go too far and I build even more, the project gets a little harder to do. But anyway, I'm at 3 hours almost. Ads will start very shortly. I do have to go and cook dinner, so I really do must end here. What's for dinner? Either chicken tikka with chicken tikka skewers with some rice and some vegetables, or some marinated pork chops with same rice and veg, and maybe some green beans tossed with some bacon. Depends on, yeah, depends on what the family is feeling overall. So thanks, Tooks. Thank you for the feedback, by the way. I do appreciate the input. So let's go. I think we know where I'm going. I'm going to go and raid Settlix. I'm going to go over there, say hello, and then, yeah. Don't forget, if you like this sort of stuff, he won't be in here today. But One Lion is also a .NET developer. He streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday currently, has a great community. He does Blazor, so you know it's different to what I'm doing with the UI. He also spends a lot of time. He has spent a lot of time recently on building up the UI using tools. So also very fascinating to watch for that purpose. So yeah, he'll be streaming tomorrow. He streams around 12:30 Eastern. So yeah, worth checking out. So let's go raid Settlix, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate it. Take care. Have a great one. Bye.